Yeah, by all means. I'm just bringing up the poems. Thank you for sending them, Anya.
Thanks for writing them.
Well, I only wrote 2 of them.
2? There are 3. 3.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, we
There's
can see
small
3
one.
of them.
And 2 big ones.
One very little one, yes. Hang on. Port Bowen isn't mine. The Red Sea isn't mine. I don't remember who wrote that. Oh, Stephen Edgar.
We've got all the names. Now, what is love? It's your poem,
Oh, yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the stars like bits of sun. It's also
you're right. There were 3. I'm not sure that the little one, when the touch is light as a pin feathers brush across the skin, the butterfly of death fancy. It's not a poem. It's a fragment. And it came in a blinding moment and then disappeared. It's a bit like Kubla Khan.
But how do you know that it's a fragment? Maybe it's just a short poem. Or is it because you don't feel satisfied?
No, I feel that there's more. That, that at some point, whoever it is or whatever it is that sent that to me will bother to communicate again and send some more. I shouldn't laugh. Yeah, because at the time I wrote it, like a pin feathers brush, that first line came and just popped into my mind, and I thought, yes, that's good. And then you get the second line, which kind of takes it into a dark place, and yet I'm not sure that that's where the poem would go. I think the poem is actually about beauty. So I'm waiting for the rest of the poem to arrive.
Yes,
it's like a telegram that's been sent in advance of a beloved relative, grandfather, grandmother, or something. You know, I'm arriving from Vladivostok on Thursday.
Yeah.
Well, I'm waiting for Thursday.
Yes, let's hope that they don't get lost on their way.
Well, if they're coming from Vladivostok, it's highly likely they will. Particularly if they're driving. Rather than going by train.
Okay. Yeah, but we still like it, yeah, and we'll be waiting for how long it's going to take it to arrive. Maybe a few years. I mean the poem.
I'm trying to remember whose death it was that it took me.
Yeah, this was my second question actually. What inspired it? And to me, it's actually, well, I shouldn't say it, but it looks absolutely complete.
Well, no, you are reading it. You're the audience. You have the absolute right to say it looks complete. It feels complete.
Yes, it does.
It's just, I agree with that. It's just that I have the sense that there's more out there.
Yeah.
But it was, the sort of spark was either, I'm not sure whether it was I'm not sure whether it was brought about by an actual death or by the memory of someone's death. trying to remember who it was in August who could have died. It wasn't anybody personal. It was somebody. It would have been a public figure, I think. An unexpected death.
As far as I remember, it was somebody's husband.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions relating to that poem?
Well, when you wrote there, did you visualize this butterfly, or is it like words? I mean, I'm asking because people are different. Sometimes you say, and I usually don't see words. Yeah, I see words like words.
I do that too, but and mostly. But at the point where I was writing it, I had a sense not of a butterfly, but what I had was a sort of like a moving image of, well, actually it was probably more like a moth, but I think butterfly is a lighter sounding word than moth. Moth has got negative associations in English, because they eat our clothes.
In Russia, they are the same.
In Russia, they do too.
Yeah.
So is the word in Russian? What is the word for moth and what is the word for butterfly?
Mol. But we also have another touch, another connotation. Is that it's very. It looks very simple, very pale. So I think we call it mol. We can also use it to denote a person who is like doesn't really stand out much.
So negative.
Yeah, so it has two negative meanings, like the one that comes with the destructive clothes, and the one which comes with a
and the black moth. The black moth, in the song, it's like.
So what about butterfly?
The prostitute.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah, okay.
Really?
So what's the Russian word for butterfly? Is it the same or?
Babuchka. Babuchka.
Sorry? Babuchka's grandmother.
No, not babushka. Babuchka.
Babuchka.
Yeah.
Okay. And is the connotation positive?
Yes, it's just a butterfly.
Yeah, it depends on the person.
Yeah, okay. Right, okay. I didn't... If you look at the internal rhyming of it, across the skin the moth of death lands here, would actually work better. But because you've got an internal rhyme between os across the op across and the op in moth.
Yeah.
And you don't break the rhythm either across the sin, the moth of death. So it's ba 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 ba. So rhythmically it works too. But in terms of the image, it didn't work. So I had to find something else. So what I actually envisaged was a very small butterfly.
Yeah. Did it have color? Did it have color?
Not that I remember. What I mostly remember is the act of it landing.
Yes, it's like a presence. Yes.
Yeah, they sort of sink down through the air and then they're there and the wings spread out. It was more that.
Yeah, so it was more about touch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
And the touch, the pin feather touch is its feet landing on the skin of the person who's died. It's not the cause of death either. It's the recognition that death has arrived or that life has departed. It's more that. It's not to do with death coming, it's to do with life leaving.
I thought it this butterfly was a messenger. Yeah, so it brought this message to you. It lands here, that it's not landing on that person who is dying, that it brought the message to you.
And I had a different association. I had, well, you know this butterfly effect, which kind of, I didn't even have this association before I said it, but it probably was all the time. It was there on the back of my mind. So the association I got was that there is this small, teeny tiny event, or I don't know, a movement or something that causes a huge destruction.
Somewhere else, yes.
Yeah, or just here, it lands here and something starts, or and it lands so quietly, so it's like a common thing.
I wouldn't say you were wrong in that. I've known of the butterfly effect for about 30 years. So somewhere in the rubbish heap of my mind, there are certain sort of... It's interesting. I'm going to pause. I had a conversation with a friend once about the way we saw our minds, the metaphors we used to describe the way we live mentally. And she said to me, "How do you see your mind?" And I said, "Well, I think people are like onions. You peel off the layers until you find
nothing.
The sweetest part of the onion, or the most powerful part of the onion in the centre." And she said, "Well, no," she said, "I'm afraid I'm a jungle. And for me, there is a great sort of chaos of stuff going on. And here and there, in the midst of the chaos, there are villages of organisation." And she sort of flies from one village to another and then retreats into the chaos. And when you know her, that's how she lives her life. It's a constant battle against chaos. Chaos that she doesn't really bring upon herself, but which other people seem to bring to her. Very interesting person. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, I think I see my mental resource pack, if you like, as being like a vast rubbish dump of life's detritus, inside of which there are things. And like those people who pick in the Philippines and so on, who go across rubbish dumps picking out valuable things, looking for valuable things. In this sort of mess, there are moments of, if you like, poetic truth or poetic clarity, and the butterfly effect is one of them. I know it's there, I just don't necessarily know where it is. A bit like my desk, really.
Interesting. And how do you see your mental life, if you have an immediate image? Yes, because we are talking about it.
Well, yeah, it's totally a mess, but how to visualize it? The mental life. I don't know. I don't have any images. No.
You don't have a metaphor?
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't right now.
It's something to think about.
I don't know, maybe it's some sort of a weird machine, you know, there's like this in physics, or I don't know what it is even, but it's when you push one ball and it's attached to the, like a bar, and there's a row of balls, I don't know what it's called, but it starts moving like
It's the Tesla effect.
Yeah, but in my
Bang, bang,
mind,
bang, 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 bang,
yeah,
bang,
like
bang,
this.
bang, 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 bang.
Exactly. But it's like this, but it's attached to different layers. So there's like a whole web of those, and they kind of start interconnecting. Yeah, that's the image I got right now. That's my mind.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, what do you call this effect?
It's the one with bang, 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 bang. It's called the Tesla effect.
I mean, Tesla.
Yeah, named after the scientist.
Yeah, so it's like a multi-level Tesla effect.
Yeah, that's
Oh wait.
That's fascinating because, of course, it's physically impossible, but it's wonderfully evocative. It's a really powerful image. I like that very much. Right. Where are we going from here?
Maybe shall we move to? Do you have any further questions, or shall we move to another poem?
No, I've got an image for my mental life. If you wish to hear about it.
Yes.
Go on.
Yeah, so would be interesting to compare with Wayne's image of my mental life. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's typical English weather. It's fog. It's misty. Yeah, fog. And there is always a kind of investigation, but I can't really see anything. Yeah, and I need to find there are some metallic structures. Yeah. Oi. Right. Yeah, and I just touch them. I need to investigate them like this. Yeah.
No, I think that's very apt. Only I wouldn't say metallic structures. I would say trees.
Oh, trees. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Because they're more substantial and they're of life. Whereas metallic structures always strike me as being rather cold and dead. Whereas the things you struggle with tend to be about life.
Yeah, well, okay. So we need to move from these metallic structures to the trees. Maybe that's the direction. Yeah, to the forest. Yeah. Okay.
Very appropriate for Russia. We have lots of forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but trees are way scarier in the fog. Like you touch them and you never know what kind of liquid there is on the what do you call it, kara?
On the bark.
Yeah, there is some kind of liquid, or there is this what is it called? Like fungus all over it, and you never know when you touch the fungus.
Yeah, and you never know.
And when you touch metallic structures, it's kind of safer because they're just metallic, so you know what to expect. Even if you don't see them, you kind of know that it's okay, it's metallic structure.
It's just about them being cold and hard and it's something abstract. It's like this.
Yeah, but I would be way more scared if I had to touch trees in the fog, which I can't see rather than those metallic structures. They seem safer.
I find that very interesting. Really interesting. That says to me that you're very much a city girl.
Well, in fact, I'm not. I love nature, but I don't touch it in the fog. I mean...
And she's the only one who doesn't actually live in the center of Moscow.
Yeah,
she lives near here, near the forest, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think... I think the Anglo-Saxon view of nature is of something that's very benign. So that when I'm thinking of trees, I'm not thinking of fir trees, I'm thinking of oak trees. And so in a fog, on the oak tree, you might have moisture, but it would be the fog. If there was any liquid there, it would be contained within the runnels and the bark. So if you touch the surface of the bark, your hands would be wet and maybe cold, but they wouldn't be damaged. There'd be nothing dangerous, nothing poisonous. See, we only believe there's one kind of mushroom. We don't we don't understand mushrooms the way you guys do. So for us, touching a mushroom, touching trees, we're unlikely to touch mushrooms, whereas in your forests, there are mushrooms all over the place, and some of them are lethal and some of them are not.
It's just me, I guess. It's just me because I'm realizing I've been a scaredy cat all the way, and it's just getting bigger and bigger, and that's why I'm so impressed by the poem, because it's about the fragility of life and the unexpected moments when it crushes, kind of. This butterfly lands, but by the way, I'm the person who hates butterflies. I think they are the ugliest creatures.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they do have those wings and everything. Are they wings or
wings?
Yeah,
I think
so,
yeah.
But they also have antennae, and they also have those ugly bodies, which if you take away the wings, they look just horrible. And the bigger the body is, like the central part, the uglier the butterfly is. And by the way, we have been kind of making this big list of books upstairs in the study of Boris Pasternak, and we found this book where this lady sent him Le Petit Prince, the Little Prince, is it, or
The Little Prince.
yeah, the Little Prince, and she writes quotes all over the book, all over the cover, and there is this teeny tiny quote which says something about this tête de mort. This is like the dead head butterfly, which looks like a skull. On top of its body there is a skull, and it's just disgusting. And Pasternak mentions this butterfly in one of his earlier works. And I think, these creatures, this is can you say deceitful обман? Deceit.
Yeah, I don't think that I don't know the proper word. Yeah, because deceitful, I thought it's more
Like
about people.
you just get tricked by the wings, but it's just right in front of your eyes, like the core element.
The skull.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and even if it doesn't have a skull, even if it's like the most beautiful butterfly ever, still you can see it straight in front of your eyes, like the ugliness of the body, because it's just right in the middle between the two wings. And I think it is so obvious how ugly that thing looks, but people usually concentrate on the wings and they don't see the core, and that's what makes me most disgusted, like this little thing in the middle. So it's like a worm in a way. So the worm it doesn't give you this illusion. Like you can see the worm straight, or a caterpillar, and you know what it is. It doesn't conceal the true.
Its true nature.
But the butterfly does.
Basically, you think butterflies are dishonest.
Yeah, absolutely. They are.
Yeah, so when you read it, the poem must have had a fairly negative, because that's a very powerful evocation for you.
Yeah.
Word butterfly with very negative associations. Interesting.
Yeah. I thought quite the opposite. Yeah, that it's something very delicate, and beautiful and elegant, and it's still part of life. Yeah, although I know it's bad. Yeah, and I've got another association, but it's from life, because in Budapest, in the zoo, they've got this butterfly house. Yeah. And there you can see that butterflies, they are such perfect pilots. Yeah, yes, of course it's about apocalypse now, but they are so good at moving, and avoiding people, and there were lots and lots of people, but they could fly like this, and they just arrived and landed where they wanted, and they only they would land only onto some people. Yeah, and they would avoid others.
Yeah, they always land on me, like always.
Yeah. Somehow they know that you're
they know
afraid of them. Yeah.
They irritate me. And by the way, butterfly house. This is the most disgusting thing. Because have you noticed the smell? You know, they have a very specific smell. The more the butterflies there are in one spot, the stinkier they are. Like this whole environment, it's like it reeks. You can really smell it. Have you noticed it?
I don't think so. I thought what it was about people. Maybe people.
No,
there are a lot of people.
They have very
small
specific
rooms,
smell, especially when they
stinky.
breed. When they breed, those what are they called? Куколки. Or личинки, не личинки, куколки.
Eggs maybe, or
butterfly.
larvae. Yeah.
Lava.
Yeah, so they when they breed.
Cocoon.
Yes, the cocoon. So the cocoons, they also produce this very specific smell. And I once happened to be
Didn't think about it. No, I didn't notice.
Yeah, maybe it was a bigger space, but I happened to be in this. In Moscow, we have those new kinds of entertainment now. They are like three things you can, or four things you can visit with one ticket. So you can visit the giant's house, like where the furniture looks bigger. Then you go to the labyrinth, like mirror labyrinth. Then you go to this thing I also hate is like the zoo, when you can touch the animals, and you wind up in a room with butterflies, with a lot of cocoons. And this was a rather small room. It was like twice as small as this one, and so this enclosure, it made it even more obvious, like the smell. So there is nothing good about butterflies for me. Well, so far I haven't really experienced any good emotions.
That's for you. Yeah, but because it's also my favorite. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah. So twice as big, but half the size. Or okay.
You can't say twice as small.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I also do the same always. Yeah.
Okay. I never.
That's why she started giggling as soon as I started typing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's I think it's a Russianism, because I imagine in Russian you can say twice as small.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. But we don't think that way. We think in terms of fractions.
Yes, I see.
So in terms of size, if we want to focus, this is the base size, and these are smaller than half the size, a quarter the size, a third the size, a fifth the size. But twice as big, 3 times as big, 4 times as big, 5 times the size. Sorry, it's just the sort of thing that I can't stop myself from doing. Right, shall we move on? I think we've tortured poor Anya enough.
But I loved. That's why the poem looks so complete and so perfect, because it has everything in there. All the imagery that I find absolutely truthful when we speak about, a catastrophe of some kind, or death. So it comes unexpectedly, it lands quietly, and the size of it is just doesn't even begin to explain the size of the catastrophe it may produce in a human life. So sorry about being so.
No. I think you're probably right. But like I said, at the point where I wrote it, it came. The first 2 lines came immediately, with a touch as light as a pin feather's brush across the skin. Then across the skin came, and then suddenly I knew what the rest of it was. The butterfly of death lands here. Because up to that point, you don't know what it's talking about. The touch is light as a pin feather's brush. Are we talking about a bird? No, we're not talking about a bird because it's a pin feather. So a pin feather's taken from a bird. It's not part of, I mean, it is part of the bird, but it's inaccessible. If it brushes across the skin, then we talk about sensation. Yeah, okay. Right, so where do we go to next? You choose.
Well, I don't know. Both.
So the first.
Well,
What's
what
love?
is love comes first. Yes, in the list.
Okay. So your questions.
Well, do you have any?
I've got my vision and my reactions, but maybe first questions.
Well, I have various, straightforward and ordinary questions. So first is, again, what was the, how long did it take you to write this one?
It was written in a session, so maybe half an hour, 3/4 of an hour.
So it was like the complete thing. Or
Yes.
It came all at
Yes,
once.
it's not. Yeah, it was. If I went back to the original manuscript, the first thought, what is love to blew my words away, that's where it started. And there was an image of two people under a tree. And the nature of their relationship. And then the second part down to there, but there were actually, as I remember, I completely scribbled out and threw away a whole 2/3 of what I wrote originally, and said to myself, no, this has got to be a conversation between two people and the wind, or despite the wind, if you wish. And I didn't know where it was going. So I didn't stop writing until I got to where it was going. And yeah, okay, so that's the first question. So it was probably longer. It might have been up to a couple of hours.
And another one is, why is the wind beneath this tree? I don't quite understand this image. Like, why is it not all over the place, but beneath the tree? I mean, maybe this is just plain physics.
No. It's because that's where the wind needed to be. I don't know if you remember, but in Winnie the Pooh somewhere, he writes a hum, and I think it's probably Piglet. He says to him, well, why talk about this in the hum? And Pooh says, I don't know. It just wanted to be there.
Well,
That's my Pooh voice. But also it was the sense that, right, you've got two people talking to each other. They're very close, they're intimate, obviously. But something's taking the words away between the time they're spoken and the time they're heard. And that's the wind. But the wind is not like, it's not like that. It's just the air moving.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as the words are out of the mouth, they drift away on the air.
Mm-hmm.
They don't arrive, like the butterfly, like butterflies or moths, or I'm sorry, they're so negative, but or pinflies, if you wish. They're light, they're airy, they're and it's nonsensical. No, it's not nonsensical because she doesn't. She acknowledges she doesn't know what she says. What she wants to say, and grabs my arm. Okay, right. So that answers that, I think.
Mm.
It's a metaphorical wind.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. But if you, what time of the year would you have them be there? In your mind.
Well, it depends on the geography, because
So what? So where do you see it?
I see it where you are. So
What, in my study?
well, I mean in England. So is there like such a diversity of seasons there?
Yes.
Is there?
Yeah.
I always
You
thought
could
there
say
is no,
so.
there is no such great diversity as we have here. So there is, but it's not that
No, they do. I don't think they have snow at the moment.
they
No,
do.
they
By the way,
Uh-huh.
I know-
We had 2 days ago.
yeah,
2 days ago,
have,
yeah.
but it's not like that. So what I see green, and I don't know, this beneath thing. It actually made me think of a sequoia or a
So
huge
some evergreen.
one.
Yeah.
Or maybe some evergreen, and or of something huge one, because you have to be there beneath the tree. You have to be like have room for people and wind. So I don't know why I visualize the whole thing because of the tree. Well, it seems green. Everything seems green. Everything around is green, and the tree is big and tall. That's the way I see it.
Leanna?
Well, it's just you know that I don't like it very much when it's about love. So when I imagined the whole thing, it's like the whole thing is in the Enchanted Wood
Yeah,
from
something like
Winnie the
that.
Pooh. Yeah, and so the he is like, no, I don't mean he's Winnie the Pooh, but he's very much like him. He's being grumpy. Yeah, he's not saying what he's thinking because he doesn't feel it makes much sense talking about it. And it's windy anyway. Yeah, and the lady is like she's not from the same book. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Which book is she from?
Well, I don't know. Maybe Pride and Prejudice, something like this. Yeah. Well, she is good and beautiful and inspiring, and she's the muse. But she's not from this forest.
Yeah, it just got me
Yeah.
thinking. Why did you visualize Winnie the Pooh? Like, is it because there is a word? It's hard to bear. Is it like that?
It's hard to the bear.
Is it because of the verb bear?
No. It's just because I was thinking about the poet, and I thought about Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, I definitely.
No, I think we thought Winnie the Pooh because I talked about Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
Originally, for me, Winnie the Pooh wasn't involved at all, or anything like it.
Well, I don't think so. No, but I thought about it before you talked. I mean,
Oh, okay.
it's my association. Yeah, well, because I just thought that he was grumpy.
Grumpy.
Yeah.
That's interesting. He's
Yeah,
not grumpy.
definitely.
I can tell you for sure he's not grumpy.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that ever. Like, I think it's quite the opposite. Grumpiness is something heavy in itself, like, and there is lightness in what's happening, no? I think the whole wind thing, it's about being light and being blown away, yeah, so it's like, and grumpiness is something down to earth, no? Is it?
Grumpy, ворчливый.
Yeah, I know what it is. What I know the meaning of this adjective, but I think a grumpy person would be more down to earth and would be more.
Maybe they just
would
maybe
be
they
heavier, just heavier.
pretend being down to earth, something like this. Yeah.
Interesting. What do you think motivates his answers?
Is it?
Well,
Is the poem about him or about her?
about the thing in between.
Yeah, absolutely. But who's looking at it? I mean, he's narrating it. So is it about him or is it about her?
I thought
His
it's about.
perceptions of her.
I thought it's about him.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. It's about how he sees her, I think, to some extent.
It's more about sounds and touch again. It's not about seeing things.
No, I mean
for
mentally
me.
seeing things. I don't mean visually seeing things. Yes, you're right. It's about sounds and touch. It's also about how a conversation starts with an idle question, which I think her first question is, and how that the conversation that follows then sort of changes from being idle to being profoundly important to the relationship. Because his inability to answer or his unwillingness to answer, not his inability, because he knows what love is, or he thinks he knows what love is, but his inability to tell her what he's thinking or to share with her raises all sorts of questions, it seems to me, like, will she accept this answer? If she doesn't accept this answer, then I'll have damaged the relationship. So am I better to tell her what I think, or am I better to just brush it away? I think that's where it's going, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, but because it's a dialogue and you can role play it or just imagine them talking in a variety of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. When she asks the question, what answer is she expecting? The first time.
Well, I don't know. She's not from this forest. Who knows what she wants to do?
Yeah, I think, well, what is love is such, well, I can't but say it, but, you know, there is this song. What is love? Is there, this is a song, right?
I don't know.
Okay, maybe there is no such song, but I thought there was. Anyway, so it's a simple question, a naive one, well, a stupid one, even if you ask it out loud like this. that like straight. But I think that why would a person in a poem ask a stupid, naive question? So probably they are putting a more, a deeper. There is more to that than just a question. Is this really a question? Is this not a statement? Because it looks like a statement. Like it looks like a question that doesn't need to be answered. So everything is right here. Everything the narrator does is understandable and correct, because that's the way you answer to this kind of question. You simply don't. You just live in the moment, right? With this question asked and hung in the air, there to be blown away. So that's the first association I get, because you wouldn't want the answer to this question. Have you ever asked this question?
I've never talked about this thing.
Yeah.
I think it's completely stupid.
So it's not even a question.
Sorry. Okay, let's imagine a scenario. It's a sort of romantic film scenario. Two young people, but I suppose they don't have to be young, but two people who are new in a relationship with each other, very new. At that stage where everything is new and sparkling. Walking hand in hand across a field, coming to rest underneath a tree, maybe still holding hands, and looking out over the fields. And in my mind there's a river there as well, I don't know why. And she says idly, "What is love?"
I can't imagine that, because usually people have more practical things to do when just on the field.
Well, afterwards
like
she might
this, yeah.
say, "Oh, there's grass sticking in my butt," but at this moment she says, "What is love?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, still convinced that it's not a question, because it doesn't even have a question mark in the first line. It's rather a statement rather than a question, I think, and it doesn't need to be answered.
Well, I think probably he would have been wise not to answer it. That's true. And possibly what he means is, I don't know what you want me to say.
Then maybe it's just the piglet asking.
Well, it's a naive question. You're right about that. You'll find that I like naive questions. Because I think naive questions are important. I think when we lose touch with the naive self, we become too much damaged by cynicism and anger at the world. And what we actually need from time to time is somebody asking the naive question to take us back and reset us. Or we get trapped in the sort of muddle of our sort of day-to-day lives, and we need somebody or something to sort of say to us, there is something bigger here. Something bigger is fine. Something that we need to explore, that we should explore, to understand better who we are, what we are. So I'm very fond of the naive question for that reason, because the naive question always asks the idiot savant type question. Usually they're questions to which there is no satisfactory answer, of course. I know that, but somehow when I was writing this, it seemed relevant. Okay, any other questions?
Could you read this out loud?
Whoa.
Yeah, that would help.
Hang on, let me read it. Okay. What is love? She says to me. I don't know, I say. And the wind beneath the tree blew my words away. What? She wants to say, and grabs my arm. Her fingers touch his heart there. I don't know. There it's said out loud to her. Her whole self intent on me listens to the wind beneath the tree. What is love? She whispers. Breathe. I don't know, I say, but I do. It's what is here, in here, to stay. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so shall we move to the next one?
Yeah.
So the stars then.
The stars, okay.
Okay, I have very stupid questions here.
No,
Very practical.
your questions appear to be very unstupid, so don't denigrate yourself.
Well,
That's a Liana habit. Please don't emulate.
we have that in common.
Yeah.
So I have this. Well, first things first. I have this line here: Romeo and Juliet, who kiss with hands and rise on walls and lifts. I just want to say how wonderful this line, these two lines are. And then the questions. Well, first is the pinprick, right? So both poems have the pins in them. Is this intentional? Is this imagery somehow involving the pins? Are your favorite ones? Is your favorite one? Or and the second question. No. Just a quick coincidence. Is it?
The image I was thinking about was when you're lying inside a tent and you're looking up through the canvas of the tent, those sort of sharp little moments of light. So no. I do like the it sound. If I want to have something that's, if you like, sharp and pointy.
Interesting. And yeah,
But pin feather is completely different because it's the name of something.
Yes, I see.
So I had no choice over that. If it had been the brushy, fluffy feather, then I might have had to think about changing it. But that was just the name of the. I was trying to be precise about the kind of feather I was talking about. Okay, sorry, go on.
Well, and the second one was the canvas roof, so the tent. What was the... what were maybe the circumstances of writing it like this? How did you write it? What were you thinking about?
No, the starting point was the stars. And what I was looking for was an image that would somehow capture the idea of sharp points of light that move, that change as other forces change. Because if you look at this, if you look at sunlight, particularly if the tent is under trees or something, and there's a wind blowing the canvas, then that although the sun itself doesn't move, the pinpricks of light that you're seeing through the canvas, they do move because the canvas is moving. And it's that sense of heat and light, I think, that I wanted to bring. Because stars are often often portrayed as being cold light. because they're associated with night. It's cooler at night. And because you can't actually feel the heat from them, because it's come from such a vast distance away. But what I wanted to do was to kind of bring them closer to the mind of the reader, my reader, and to get some sense of warmth from them.
Warmth. So it's
Yes.
interesting.
Go on, sorry.
Yeah, it's just that warmth isn't the thing that comes to mind when you speak of knit together lumps of void. It's quite the contrary. The cold.
No, the point is, yes, you're right. The void is cold. But what I'm saying is, what I'm trying to say is that the stars are what give the void life. The void is cold. It's nothing. But what the stars do, they by sort of inner sense, I had this image, which obviously I remember thinking about this at the time. I had the image of the void as being rather like a lump of fluid tar, macadam tar, what roads are made of. Right, that blackness sort of congealed and glutinously out there. And then set into this, and what actually gives it point and purpose are the stars. Now, I didn't want to put something as negative as visceral, because you can smell tar seal, especially when it's fresh. Smell I quite like, but it's so different from where I was, which was out there in the universe, that I couldn't go down that road. But I do remember thinking of it. I've never been happy, to be honest, with that verse. I'm not sure it works.
With the whole
But
three,
anyway.
with the whole three, well, with the whole poem, or with the whole 3 lines?
No, those 4 lines. I'm not sure about the rest of the poem either, actually, to be honest. It's a while since I looked at it.
And may I also ask this knit together part? Why are the lumps of void knit together? I thought they were stars that were knit together like lumps in the void. Is it the right image? And why are they knit together? Are they knit like constellations, or in the Milky Way?
That sort of thing. I think when you go out into the countryside in Russia, far away from the cities, I mean, what you have there is a magnificence of stars. Unbelievably magnificent. But that's not what I'm seeing here. This is actually an urban night sky. You've got a street lamp that sort of blots all the night out. And in the London night sky, the Moscow night sky as well, you have many fewer stars. What you see are only the stronger ones. And somehow, in order to make sense of life, they need to have some kind of connection. The knitting together is the stars trying to connect and create a meaning out of the void, I think.
Yeah, in the town constellations are different from countryside.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and I thought in terms of imagery, it's quite consistent, because there's small holes in the canvas, yeah, and this warm light, yeah, and tar, sticky and dense, yeah, and yeah, so somehow knitting together. And graffiti, yes, of course you are writing about lifts here, but when it's graffiti, it's also asphalt, как мы его произносим-то? Асфальт.
Asphalt.
Asphalt, yeah. So it's again tar and hardened tar, and well, so it has its material constituents, I think. I mean the poem.
Yeah, I think the other thing that, I mean, there's a contrasting movement in it between light and dark, isn't there?
Yeah.
So you have pinprick bits of sun knitting together lumps of void. Then you have the street lamp shines and throws day's light down in orange splashes on the ground. So what's the colour of the pinprick bits of sun? It's yellow. You have orange from the street lamp. So there is that sort of colour. And then you have spark that bleeds. Well, the colour of blood is red. Turns black, and the black is back to the void.
Yeah.
Turns and turns it back, the gust of passion written in style that's blind. That in the end, the knitting together, attempting to knit together meaning that is suggested at the beginning of the poem fails. The connection between the stars, was it the line from Shakespeare, the fault is in the stars, is not in the stars but in ourselves that we are underlings. It's just Cassius to Brutus. But this notion that our fate is tied up with stars, which, and, you know, the opening lines of Romeo and Juliet, these two star-crossed lovers, blah, 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 blah. So what is the influence of the stars on these two lovers? Well, it's nil. It's nothing. Merely that their passion, whatever it is, might be written there, but it's not come from there. It's recorded there. Maybe. And the star itself is blind, so the star is unable to interpret or understand. It just simply records. Next question.
I didn't understand the empty lamp post. Why?
Knit together lumps of void and disappear when one street lamp shines and shines, and should be throws day's light down in orange splashes on the ground. The empty lamppost eye sees it all impersonally, not God, not I and I. So, just like a camera is an empty eye, a lamppost is a, what, in language, we talk about throwing light upon a subject, bringing understanding. Here is something that throws light on a subject, doesn't bring any understanding.
No, I mean, what is lamp post?
Это не фонарь разве?
Also just lamp post is like...
A lamppost, for us, the lamppost is the pole with the unit that contains the...
Right, yeah, so, okay. So I just somehow didn't understand the easiest.
No, well, it is just that. When we talk about street lamps, we also talk about lampposts. So the two terms, I could say the street lamp eye.
No.
It doesn't work as well in terms of rhythm and the vowels. O, I. It's a much much better transition of vowels. I mean, I didn't sit there and construct it like that. It's just what came out of my head. That's why, that's why I chose those words. But if we're walking down the road, we'll say, "Oh, that lampost's not working." We might say that street lamp's not working, but we could equally say that lampost's not working. So for us, the two, I said street lamp in the first line of the stanza, so I can't repeat it. So I need a synonym.
It's beautiful and make you think of Verona. Yeah, a town.
Actually, I was thinking of Beckenham.
Beckenham.
Not even Beckenham Beach. What I think I was saying was that what two young people, two lovers, what they experience, I guess is the right word, within the world of their love, as do Romeo and Juliet with hand to hand holding, palms kiss, that wonderful section of Romeo and Juliet. It's intense, it's personal, it's intimate, it's powerful, it's wonderful. But I wanted to point out that in the context of the world, and that's why I lift with graffiti in it, as they ride up to their flat, the world around them can be a harsher or bitter place. I think that's what it's driving at.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely see some very urban. Well, I've never been to England, but I always imagined there were like this, very urban areas, the ones you see in, British Film Festival. There are movies about, life on the outskirts or something. And you see, lots and lots of plain grey houses with concrete walls, lots of concrete, the grey lamppost, something which looks like we have it here in the suburb. So, and there is this, the historical part with beautiful orangey or brown old buildings and castles and everything. So the two contrasted things, and this one is definitely the concrete one with walls, lifts.
I would say it's in a city rather than suburbs, though. And it's as true of Moscow as it is of London. If you go into blocks of flats in Moscow, you have graffiti in them. In the lifts, you have a sort of anonymous grey concrete world, which in England is different from in Russia, because in Moscow what people do, as you well know, is you step from that grey monotonous exterior into something that's very often very vibrant, very kind of lots of wood, lots of colour, lots of life inside. You walk through the flat door, you shut the front door, you shut the second door, and you're inside. And when you're inside, you're in a good place, a place that people have made to be lived in as best they can. Mirrors, books, clothing everywhere, fur coats, fur hats, whatever.
Yeah, but
you go into the poorer areas of London, and the graffiti lift is a metaphor for what they're going to find inside. They go inside the house and there'll be thin carpet on the floor, if they're lucky. Well, probably. The walls will be not well cared for. They'll be grubby, dirty. And the quality of life in there is not good either. It's very poor.
Yeah,
So
actually we've seen it only in the films, because I've never been to a poor household. I mean, in England, no. It's just,
Yeah, there is more contrast in there, because now they tend to build, in the suburbs, they tend to build brighter houses, and it's astounding how many new districts or neighborhoods emerge, and they are all bright, and especially the one I live in at the moment, it has all kinds of colors in there, because it's made like a fairy tale. Well, the yards are like fairy tale, like even the benches are made of huge crayons, like the huge long wooden crayons, and everything is so bright, like the ground surface, like it's not asphalt or anything, it's like a specific kind of coverage they use for better landing. If you are a child and you land on the ground, it's softer.
Okay, yeah, I think I know the stuff. Yeah.
So it's usually green, bright green, yellow, blue. The houses are usually red or yellow or multicolored. There is more warmth in there, or even artificial colors. And I always imagined the poor house, or just the father households of London more plainer, like they look grey, they look...
so in Penge they should be grey, yes? You see, if it's...
Not just Penge.
No, I mean...
Grey is the predominant colour.
South
but then grey is the predominant colour of England.
No, but because if it's East London, it's rather brick, and then it's like reddish, brownish, and greyish, something like it. Well, yeah, because it feels different, I thought.
They are warmer colors.
No, dirt, kind of dirt, yeah. Yeah, in some parts. But
it's true that what Leon is saying is right. There are quite large areas of London which are built of a redder brick. The part where I live, which is Victorian, essentially, the bricks are what they call London stock bricks, and actually they're made from clay, and the clay is yellow. But the bricks discolour quite quickly to a kind of grey from, in the old days, from coal-fired pollution, but these days from vehicle pollution. And so the result is you get, until very recently, you didn't have buildings painted, for instance. There's a block of flats down the end of the road I live in. That used to be a block of offices. And while it was a block of offices, it was functional. So therefore, the exterior of it was grey, because it was made of concrete. When they decided to change it into flats, they painted it. They painted it grey. Would you believe? But they relieved the grey with other colours. Not bright, vibrant colours, as you're using in Moscow, but sort of Grumadara colours, which I think probably speaks more to the sort of way that English people see life. I don't think they're very cheery in London, really.
But you still have a lot of colours, and at least in your part of London or outskirts or whatever, you definitely have more colours than, for example, in our southeast of Moscow where we live. Because the pollution there is much worse. Although they compare your Lewisham with our Kapotnya, so we live not far from there, I didn't think that Lewisham was as grey or as brownish.
No, but Lewisham has been completely reinvented itself in the last 20 years. If you'd gone to Lewisham in the 1980s, it was a very, very different place. It was very depressing. And even they built a massive, great shopping centre there. Rather like some of the shopping centres you have in, not out around Limcad, but in town. Atrium, for instance, if I remember rightly, was one of them. And they were aiming for that, but they didn't get there. So all the major brands are there. Somehow the whole project fell short of the sort of kind of warm, inviting environment that invited you in. You went in and you thought, my God, this area is probably going to be full of thugs and vandals and God knows what. Let's go away. So the whole area collapsed. Well, it didn't collapse, but they've had to reinvent it in order to try and sustain the economic life of that little part of London. And part of that meant changing the blocks of flats around, rebuilding them, and putting a lot of colour into them. So it is a lot different now. The sort of London that I associate with grey is the London that was built in the 60s of just concrete, when they just really discovered that concrete was a useful building material as opposed to bricks. And of the same kind of age as the buildings I first lived in when I first went to Moscow, when I lived in Vishniki. And there the blocks of flats were built in the 60s, and they were of the same sort of concrete. They were more dilapidated, but it was the same grey colour. What was different, what was incredibly different, was the bright blue lead-based paint that they painted the hallways in, which was lethal. Because the day I arrived, I remember it vividly, they just painted the hallway. Literally the day. And so the whole hallway stank of
blue.
And this bright blue that I'm going, whoa, where did that come from?
Bright blue
Everything
sickness.
outside's, everything outside's grey. The whole landscape is grey and brown. I walk in the door and there's bright blue. Whoa. And it's underlit. So and that was the other thing, was that it's not lit with lots of bright light to bring the blueness out. It's underlit, so it's sort of dark and creepy bright blue. It was a shock associated with the smell. But, that's beside the point. I mean, that's an experience, and I've written about that elsewhere.
Wayne wrote about it in his stories of how he came to Russia.
Very depressing, I'm told. Everybody tells me they're very depressing.
They're realistic, even naturalistic, So what could you do with it? But maybe we'll have a chance to discuss your stories as well, and to look at your stories.
Well, I need to get back to writing them. Right. So, are we done with this poem?
I think.
Yes, I think so. And now the question is, why didn't you send us more stories, more poems? So because we've only got 3 of your poems.
The other ones are older. They're not. I'm not sure I trust them very much.
I
probably.
See.
What I have become aware of in the last, since I started working on the James stuff, is that there is some skill. That I have some skill. But I've written poems over a long period of time, but you can sort of track if if you look at them over a period, you can track the skills being learned.
Mm-hmm.
There's an awful lot of poems which are, I would have thought, not very successful.
Mm-hmm.
But I can send you some more.
Mm-hmm.
You are kind reviewers, so I can send you some more.
Yeah, we know how to look at poems as product and process. Yeah?
Yeah.
Right, so it's just, we are not a consumer society. Yeah, we are more interested in processes, yeah, and how it develops, yeah, because it's more interesting for us.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I've got some other poems of yours, and of course I'll share them with Anya, but it's just, of course, there isn't much sense in talking about something as you yourself don't see as a whole, yeah? So, of course, if you want to share something which looks for you as, you know, a whole, maybe not completed, but something that which is important for you, then please do it.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Fine. Right, we need to stop there because I need to go out and do other things, if that's okay with you guys.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Nice to see you both. And it looks wonderful out through those windows.
Yeah.
Looks very rural.
And
What we have,
uh-huh.
I'll show you what we have.
Yes, yeah. So please do.
Hang on. So we have frosty grass, and a clear blue sky, and a lovely sort of lovely winter's day.
Uh-huh. And what's the sound? Is it a bird?
Yeah. There's two sounds. There was the sound of a bird and the sound of a washing machine.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Draining.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about when I was speaking about, there's always some green in there. Even if it snows, it's not for long. So there is no complete wiping off the whole, the whole yellow or the whole green in the nature. And
no,
here it completely changes, and the change is so visible. And it's there to stay for a long time. And in England, it's like always constant and very moderate. So that's what I was talking when we discussed this what is love poem. So I definitely imagine something that doesn't change that much.
It does change, particularly in England, because if you go out into the countryside, away from the city, if you look at the first four lines of The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, let me find it and I'll read them to you. And that describes what the average English person sees if they go outside the cities. Obviously you have grass, which appears to be green, but if you go outside the cities, the fields are ploughed, so the earth is brown. Yes, where there are fields for animals to feed on, they are green, although there's less grass. And in some places the grass is yellowy, browny colour because it's cold and it's not growing properly. Our garden is a lie because we because we come from New Zealand, Diane has put into it a lot of New Zealand plants. And New Zealand plants are evergreen. So a lot of the bushes and things that you see that remain green are green because they're actually not English.
But still, they evergreen.
Yeah.
It's present.
And what's interesting actually when you go to New Zealand is that the green is a different colour. The greens of England are very particular. They're very soft colours.
Yeah.
In New Zealand, they're much more vibrant, and there is a sort of yellow tinge to them, which is in some ways quite unpleasant. Or at least, having lived in England for so long, I've lost a sympathy for them that I used to have. But, you know, the climate is milder. We're a bit further south, and we're in the Gulf Stream, so yeah, we don't have the extremities that you guys have of snow. And we certainly don't have snow on the ground for months. And what I remember mostly of that was not the snow, which I thought was wonderful. I think your winters are in some ways much easier to bear than ours because you have more sunshine than we do.
Wouldn't put it like this.
No, I know you wouldn't, but actually you do. We have a brilliant sunshine day today, but if you'd been here yesterday, it was grey and it was raining heavily and it was horrible. And it was cold and it was that wet, damp cold that gets in around the bones. Whereas today it's sharp and you sort of want to be out and walking around in it. Just the same as on a clear, frosty day, you know, people in Moscow want to go out into the forest and ski. Or some people do. Anyway.
Yeah.
Our winters are different, obviously, and you're right, Anya. It tends to be a green colour, and it's a different quality of green because it's deciduous green, so it's more like the south of southern Russia than it's more like around the Black Sea area.
Yeah.
Than it is like the northern part of Russia, which is mostly coniferous. And that does make a difference, yes. Makes lots of differences. But I've lived so long in England that I primarily think in terms of English colours and English, or write in terms of English colours and English experience. So,
Yeah.
right. I don't write of New Zealand experience. I do write of New Zealand, but I don't write of New Zealand landscape. Because although it's very important, it's different. And I'm not sure I know how to put that difference into words. One keeps trying, something to keep working on.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Well, thank you both for making the journey to university, just so that we can talk. That's nice. I thought you might do it at home with another conference call, but it's nice to see both in the same room.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.